through. Whatever you've been going through, we can talk about it. We ain't passing no judgment. So don't be ashamed, it's all the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come on, you don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. Tune into your late talk show. It makes us feel good just to know we're not alone. No more we've been isolated and cast aside. I want you to come up and talk. Just don't be afraid of your heart. So don't be ashamed. It's all the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come on, talk and don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. It's your lane talk show with Coach Trish Hanna.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to your lane talk show with your coach, Trish Hanna. I love saying that. Trish Hanna, happy new month. This is the month of June. Yes, it's a little bit rainy, of course, because we're starting off the hurricane season, but that should not cause you, or that should not dampen your beautiful Sunday afternoon, right? Right. We are halfway through the year. Let me ask y'all a question. Let me just make the statement. I hope that you are ticking done to those goals that you set at the beginning of the year this year, right? I hope that you're accomplishing something, and even if you may not have gotten through most of what you've allocated or stated that you want to do, I hope that at some way and somehow you are progressing, that you're doing something, that you're moving towards it. Don't let fear, discouragement, or procrastination be your reason for not making an effort to set those goals or to complete the goals that you said that you wanted for this year, right? All right, we doing some stuff right? Okay, good. You have 6 more months to put in the work, all right? If your timetable is just for this year, the 365 days, all right? Yeah, you got 6 more months for that, all right? For those tuning in for the first time, Your Lane Talk Show was created to educate, empower, and encourage women of all ages. Now, last week's show, we had with us pediatrician Dr. Carlos Thomas. We discussed the importance of vaccinations, the ages that children should be vaccinated. He spoke about the importance of good nutrition, exercise, mental and emotional well-being of our children. It was so enlightening. It was so encouraging. It's good to hear that, hey, you put a little tap on your back for doing such a good job. As he, ticked off the certain things that we as mothers or we as parents, as you do have some male listeners as well, are doing to help to bring our children into that healthy lifestyle that we should, or that they should be in. And so it was just good to hear that, hey, yeah, you're doing a good job. Yeah, Trish, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. It sounded good. Because parenting is hard, right? It is so hard. You can watch that episode on YouTube. Just go to Coach Trish Hanna. That's episode 54. It's called Managing Our Children's Health. So much information, so much knowledge, so much insight from Dr. Carlos Thomas. Thank you once again, Dr. Thomas, for your presence with us last week. All right, so now it's time for you to call a loved one, call your friend, call your sister, call your neighbor, those who you know or assume that they may be having some problems, some issues in their relationship with their spouse. Ask them to tune into Star 106.5 FM, okay, on the FM dial, or you can go to channel 976 on cable, or you can log on to Facebook on Your Lane Life Coaching Facebook page to watch us live. Now, even if your marriage, or if your cousin marriage or your sister, brother, cousin, friend marriage is healthy, you still want to listen to the show today because you want to get as much insight as possible to avoid. Prevention is better than anything else. Some things that you may be doing right, but of course you wouldn't know that unless you tune in, right? Okay, because we have like a specialist with us today that is going to just bring down the house. I promise you, she is packed and filled with knowledge and she's ready to rock and roll today. I'm telling you, I'm telling you. All right. Those who are watching us live via Facebook, please share the page. Please tag. I see all the hearts and all the loves on this side. But I need you to tag some people, man. Some married couples, the ones who are engaged to be married. Tag them. They need to know what's going on. We trying to save as many marriages as we possibly can. I'm all about healthy marriages, healthy relationships, because I hear so many stories about separation and divorce. I mean, how many of us? Let's think about it. How many of us have either stood in or attended the most beautiful wedding? I mean, you could tell they spent thousands of dollars. You know, the dress is off the chain, their makeup was on point, the hair was fixed nice. You know, they had nice little vows and everything, and then couple months, couple years later, they separated or divorced, right? For whatever reason, right? And in most cases, it's because they didn't try, they didn't put in the work, or they didn't try to find a mediator to try help and resolve whatever the little tiny issue was at that time. So what happens is they keep growing and developing, and to the point where they can't even handle it anymore, and bam. Okay. Your Lane, episode 55. Help! I think we're disconnecting. Is brought to you by Airborne Freight and Cargo Services, John's Shoe Store and Accessories, Your Lane Life Coaching, Bahama Odds and Ends Party Supplies, and Johnson & Johnson, distributed by Lowe's Wholesale. Summer is here. Grab your Johnson & Johnson skincare. This summer, during the months of June and July, purchase $15 or more of any Aveeno, Neutrogena, and Clean and Clear products and enter to win one of three amazing prizes. You can get a $500 travel voucher, a $250 John Bull gift certificate, or a $150 Visa gift card. You can pop into any of the Lowe's pharmacies or other participating retailers and go right in there and purchase the items. I promise you, you won't regret it. I know for certain, for me, Johnson & Johnson skincare products, I use Aveeno for my face. Clean and Clear is what my sister uses. And if you know of any of the products, you can actually go on to Lowe's Pharmacy's Facebook account. You get to see all of the various products that Johnson & Johnson carries. Or you can go on to my Facebook account as well, Your Lane Life Coaching. I have the flyer up there so you can look at some of the products that Johnson & Johnson carries. But if you go in, make sure save your receipt, write your name on the receipt, put it in the box at any of their locations so that you will be eligible to win. And hopefully you'll win, right? Okay. Promo ends July 31st of this year. Now let's get into it because I'm ready. I am ready. Relationship and intimacy specialist Maggie Bain is in the building. Maggie Bain specializes in helping individuals and couples achieve more satisfaction in their relationships and the bedroom. For over 10 years, Maggie has been showing people how to get truthfully naked with each other to deepen their intimacy and reignite their desire for each other. Her cognitive behavioral approach, personalized to meet specific client goals, empowers them to address the hidden wounds of abandonment, neglect, and other relationship problems while staying focused on immediate solutions to resolve conflict and get fast results. I love that. Her style is uniquely non-judgmental, compassionate, and fair. Maggie is a Florida board certified sex therapist who broke new ground by becoming the first sex therapist in the Bahamas and sparking conversations on sexuality in a culture unaccustomed to her brand of direct authenticity. Realizing how powerful this work is for the individual and the collective, she launched her global Bare Naked brand to help people strip down into their authentic selves and create more intimate relationships in their lives. As a speaker, she often approaches taboo conversations with an intoxicating combination of lighthearted humor and the intensity of someone who was unwilling to allow relationships to remain anything less than extraordinary. Y'all know me. Y'all know I all about this, right? Right. Known today as the Bare Naked Coach, Maggie travels sharing her message of being truthfully naked. Welcome.
Thank
Maggie.
you. Thank you
for
so
being with us
much.
on
Thank
your little
you.
talk show.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited.
I loved how you put so much expression
I
into
have
it.
to listen to me.
I know it's
ain't
great.
being fair today from you versus the other guests that I have in studio. I can't be fair. I have to be biased right now because you and I both share the same sentiments
Exactly.
regarding relationships and having to ensure that we keep that bond in there, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we girls, we about
Good.
to be in the vineyard now. We about to try to get some marriages restored today, right? So thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So
Lovely.
before I even start with the questions, reading your bio, you said you want to help couples to be truthfully naked with each other.
I know. People think, well, it's all about the honesty. It's all about, peeling off the mask, the facade, the arrogance. With our partner, our most significant partner, we should be the most truthful. And if we're looking to really build intimacy, the closeness, you have to shed that. You have to get down to the truth. But how to get to that? That's the key.
Now, because we're going to be real today.
Yeah.
We're going to be real today. How do we get there? We ain't get to the whole topic of, disconnect yet. Because I don't get to let's get to the root.
Yeah.
And then we're going to work our way up.
Yeah.
How do you
Well, it's the communication. I always tell couples when they come and see me that if you haven't really developed and really got your communication really good, now I don't mean great, because that's a whole different thing, but at least really good to deal with the outside things, the, household things and all the exterior outer things. How on earth are you going to be able to talk about your real fears or your insecurities or the things that you're not being satisfied, your needs, your wants? How are you going to do that if you can't talk about the other things? And so that is really key. And that is where a lot of the breakdown and the disconnect comes about, because they don't know how to. So I teach the how-tos, how to bring up those difficult conversations, how to say that you're not happy with this and that without being hit with a brick wall or being shut down, or there's so many different things, as you know, because you do coaching too. So it's tricky.
It is tricky.
Yeah,
it is. And the thing is, I love the fact that you use that term bare naked. It's like when you are naked, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like everything is exposed.
And it's the real you.
Yes.
We get down to the authentic.
Yes.
Now, don't we all want to have our partner and really see them for who they are?
Yeah.
Nothing worse than something happens and you're like, well, I didn't know that's who you were.
Right.
We're caught off guard.
Right.
And so it's the very essence of intimacy. We always think intimacy is just sexual intimacy, but intimacy is closeness.
Right.
You can have that same with colleagues, best friends, or, co-worker, wherever. But it's totally different when it is with your most intimate partner.
Yes, absolutely. So when persons come to you, let's say couples come to see you, what seem to be the top 3 common issues that you're most likely to see?
Right. So what I should say is that you can find me in Family Medicine Center in Blake Road, Dr. Kate's building, and most people know it as that. So the disconnect is that they're just not being able to, they're not heard. They feel that, so it's either the complaints of nagging, or I just can't put my thoughts across. I can't be heard. And so there's just this brick wall sort of thing. And so that's a major complaint. The other thing is that their needs, like what I want, is not being satisfied. Like, and so either they can't express it, or if they have, they feel like they're being pushed away, they're being rejected, or just, so you talked about the neglect. A lot of times it is that, and it's the lack of paying attention what's really going on in your relationship. So those are two main things. And the other one is that, so they just almost feel like they're invisible. So it's that they get treated like a piece of furniture. They're being ignored, walked around, taken for granted. And so I'd say those were the three things. Now, those sound sort of quite simple, but they are very complex.
Say those three again.
Very complex things.
What are they?
Not being heard.
Not being heard.
And so you feel like you're repeating and repeating and repeating, and then you get accused of nagging. And so, like, well, why are you having to repeat? Not being seen, feeling that you're that you're invisible, that you're taken for granted. I see that so often when people, when they come together, they don't smile at each other, they don't hug, they don't say anything, they just walk past each other and they enter the house. You know, there's so many things like that. And the other thing is the needs. You know, I say I'm not getting enough of this. I need more affection. Right. And it may not be the sex, but I just need a hug. I just need to hold my hand. I need to be comforted, need to be soothed. And so the basic needs of feeling needed, wanted, and loved are being denied. And so why? And so it's the getting down to the whys. And that's where my work is, peeling back all of that.
Wow. And so when you do find that these are some of the complaints that you get from couples, if you don't mind sharing, from out of the females and the males, who seem to be the one complaining most about this?
Well, you may be surprised by this, is that through the work that I've done for over 10 years, is that I now realize that actually, and I haven't taken statistics, I haven't taken numbers. So, but I've realized and been surprised myself that there are no stereotypes. I've had very emotional men and very cool wives, and the men's complaining about they're not getting the affection or vice versa. So I realized that there are women with, obviously that I know, that have higher sex drives than the men. Yeah. And so they don't feel sad. So I've come to realize that not generalizing of these things is that there's unhappy people. Is a lot of unhappy people. So, and I've also come to realize how little intimacy couples actually really have, which is always surprising because everybody's happy to say what they're getting and what they're doing. But sometimes, and I'm generalizing, it's not actually so. Wow. Yeah.
So they have this.
It's a facade. So you see,
especially social media. Have it all together.
Oh, well, we know that, isn't it? It's like everything's smiley and good.
When they go home, it's like,
yeah. My sweetie, my babe, and whatever. And it's just like, you know, and then they can barely talk to each other. Oh, so, yeah. What you see behind closed doors isn't. And so that's what I have been given the privilege to see behind the closed doors.
I love that. And how do you define a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage?
Well, it's that the needs, wants, and the love feel satisfied. So it is that all of those. I teach a lot about once people get out of their head about me, you know, what about me? I'm not getting enough of this. And if you truly love somebody, you want to know, and I teach them about the big love, which is actually loving on your partner, because what happens then is that it gets mirrored back to you. So if you want more of something, you give more of that. Right. But again, all of this has to be done with communication. Yes. You know, there's some things that we need to work through and get out the way before we can get to that. So, you know, it's hard work and it's not for everybody.
It's not for everyone. I noticed that because some people just don't like to put in the work. Hey,
Yeah.
you have some people
I know.
who just don't like to put in the work, and so they'd rather just leave everything, leave
Yeah.
their family, leave everything behind.
Yeah.
Because
It's easier.
It's easier.
It's easier.
Yeah.
Because it brings up, and I'm sure you know, our shadows, the sides of ourselves that we're not so proud of.
Yeah.
And it, you know, sometimes I say to my clients, you know, I call myself like almost like a can of worms, a can opener, because once we start, I warn them, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable, but hang with it. It's like dieting, I say. We can go one step forward, but you might be 2 steps back. Different stages will seem easy and they'll get difficult. But the end result, I can promise you, will be worth it.
That's amazing. I like how you said, you know, you put in the work. Some people don't like to expose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I have come across. I have a relative that said to me when I told them, I said, hey, you need to find a counselor, a therapist, somebody that could be able to assist you in your situation with your wife. And he said to me, Trish, ain't nothing y'all meaning us who deal with marriage can tell me what I don't already know.
Well,
okay,
there you
so
go.
hold on, because I know both, because, you know, it's my cousin, so I know both of the sides of their stories.
Yeah.
So I said to him, let's say his name is John. I said, okay, John, so your wife is about to leave you. Okay, I can talk to him like that. Your wife is about to leave you. She only holding on to Jesus's gown tail. You know what I mean? Just to find out what to do. She ready to pack up and leave. You understand? And you talking about you don't need no one to tell you nothing. How's that working out for you?
Yeah, exactly.
How's that working out for you?
Well, we can't lead somebody to the water. You know, it's if you put it bluntly to people, because they're like, oh, this type of work is really expensive. I'm like, yes, it's an investment, but at your age, it's for you to learn how to really get on top and to be really skilled and really great at your relationship is better than waiting till you're 50 or 60 and being unhappy all those years, or the cost of a divorce.
That's what I wanted to say.
Or the cost of child support and all of that. I mean, but it's not just the financial, it's the emotional. And it's really the lack of insight, of really understanding where these things can lead if you don't pay attention and yes, put effort in. It's about putting effort. Relationships are about effort.
And I was going to say, yes, it's not only just financial, but let's think about it. You don't want to invest in something now with just minimal amount of payments or whatever have you. And then, of course, I'm sure, I don't know how you do your payments, but you can do them monthly for some people. But when it comes to divorce matters, which is like thousands and thousands, you know, these lawyers want their stuff up front. You understand? And then, like you said, the emotional aspect, we think about our emotions. Divorce is just like grief. You know, it's like
absolutely, it's an ending of a relationship.
And not only that, what about the children and their mental state? Because you didn't want to invest in something now to try to nip in the bud now. You rather just let it linger, and then you end up messing everyone's lives, including your children.
Yeah, I know. And people wonder, does it really work? And so I recently posted on, I think it was my Instagram, a testimonial from clients, a couple from Family Medicine Center that I've been working with. And they used the words at the end that they're so glad to have done the work because their relationship has improved drastically.
Right.
And you know, just that, knowing that is the extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to believe, you have to really want it.
Yeah.
You have to have the desire to improve and work on your relationship. If it's not there, if one person's trying and the other person, it's not going to work. And coming to me once a week for an hour and a half is, you know, I'm the guide, I'll guide them through and I'm the accountability and I'll teach them skills of how to do this and that. But the rest of the week, they have to follow with the assignments, homeworks, playthings that I give them to do. So you've really got to want it.
And digging up in your business, right? So you say playthings. What are some of the things, if you don't mind? What are some of the homework assignments?
Well, I say that because people don't like the word schedule. They
Right.
don't like the word homework. They don't like exercise. So I've tried to be more palatable
Yeah.
by using. So that's what, I call it playtime,
Right.
or, their playground and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's just because our words that we use can affect our thoughts so much. Okay. And so by turning that around and making it more fun, I try and interject fun and playfulness into a relationship, because when things are going south, then it becomes so serious and intense and miserable. And so it's opening up, like, why did I get with this person to begin with? Right. There must have been something that made you feel good and better. And so it's bringing that out too. So, yeah.
I like that. So what does disconnect? Now we're getting into the topic. All right. What does disconnection in a marriage look like?
Well, it can present in many different ways. And sometimes it's so subtle that we may not notice it to begin with, because we're so busy with the distractions in our life, children, work, household, and all of that. But sometimes it's just, people would describe it as like, we're just off. We're just not like how we used to be. We're not spending as much time. We're not talking as much. There's a change in habits. She goes to bed so much earlier than she used to, or he comes to bed so late. There's change. And like I say, it might be so subtle that you don't even notice it, because so often people really aren't paying attention with not only what's going on in their life, but what's going on in their relationship. Yes. And so it is that opening your eyes wide to what's going on. Now, I don't mean that's being nervous and accusatory all the time, like, oh, what's going on with you? And what's going, because then we can start being a bit paranoid, and then we're not so much fun to be with. But at the same time, we can change our own behavior, or introduce something, or say, hey, look, it looks like we need to cook dinner more nights and sit down together. And, it's that doing things together. But also it's just that communicating what's going on in your life. I find so many couples that they're so busy with, all these other distractions and children, that they don't actually spend any time talking with each other, catching up. Well, how's your day been? Without the phone, the TV, the this and that. So that's so important, to make sure at least half an hour a day that is just for the two of you, at least. And that sounds so little, but if you've got a hectic life, that is hard.
So what eventually, I know the answer to this, but just for persons who say, what eventually happens when you find a couple that do not spend time, or at least half an hour a day together?
Well, it's just that unhappiness. Then they become irritable. It becomes a problem sometimes in their workplace. What they're missing at home, human nature is, we look for the easy, the pleasure. We start, looking for somebody. Perhaps it might be just attention. It might be somebody who listens to us. All the things that we're missing at home, we turn outwards instead of turning inwards to the relationship and concentrating on creating this. We turn outwards.
So do you find that in couples when you I was going to say coach, but when you deal with them, do they admit that they've had an affair?
Usually by the time they come to me, it's in crisis. And then that is, like you said, sometimes is really far gone. And yes, sometimes it is.
And is it normally because that person was not available?
Well, there's many reasons why, and people always think it's because of the other person. But there are many reasons that sometimes it's the temptation will always be there.
Of course.
We've got hormones within us. We will always be attracted to other people. Other people will be attracted to us. So it's making sure what you have is really good. But we can't be responsible for somebody else's behavior. So temptation is temptation. Sometimes it's a quick fix, the buzz. You know, it's just that momentary pleasure. And there are many reasons why. Yeah. So it's not, you know, you can't always say that there's something going on in the relationship at all.
Do you believe that, and I'm going to take a break right after this question, do you believe that in most situations when there has been a disconnection, it is because of an affair?
Well, I'd say, you know, the disconnect the space between people is like what fills that. And within that can be resentments, you know, resenting that they're not helping as much with the children. There can be many things. So resentments, betrayals, but the betrayals can come in many other forms too. Financial betrayals, humiliations, there can be many other things. But the longer that you are apart and that the sexual intimacy, the length of the interval between gets wider and wider, the harder it is to bring back in again. So I have people I've known for months, years, and so this has been going on for a long, long time, and it's very hard to bring them back in together. It is possible, but yes, you know, often it is the affairs, the extramarital. So you've got to know, if you're going to take that risk, is that worth more to you than what you have at home? Because you could lose the greater thing because of that. Was it worth it? And so, hey, come and see me at Family Medicine Center and let's work through, because I can tell you, we can get to a better place.
All right. Let's take a break, Beats. When we get back, we're going to start talking about some love languages, and we're going to talk about affection and the quality time and all the other
all the good stuff.
Right, all the good stuff right after this.
Shoes and Accessories is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. Whatever the occasion, Johns is confident you will.
All right, to my Facebook audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and you can type them in. If you desire to, let me see how I'm going to do this. I was afraid that the last time I did this, I had people calling me like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. But there are some questions that you may not want to share on the live, but I'm going to share the number. The number to call, to text is 376-8689, 376-8689. If you have a question that you want me to ask you, and of course, ask Maggie. Of course, we're going to be discreet with it. Just text me, and I'll be able to ask that question for you. I believe that certain questions should not be posed online, you know, because you want to protect yourself as well as your spouse.
Absolutely.
So you can text the number 376-8689, WhatsApp or text me, and I can ask the question for you. Okay, I'm actually going to open that up to the radio audience as well. I think that's fair for me to do that. So you can text in, just to be discreet. Of course, I would not share, just in case you have any questions. And of course, at the end of the show, we're going to give Maggie an opportunity to share all of our different social media what am I saying? Social media accounts and how she can be reached and all of that, so that if you need to reach out to her, you can go ahead and do so as well. Beats, what you're saying? My wife's question can't be when we get on air. What you do?
If you want to wait till you get on air, it's a little heavy.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, let's test the ground.
Let's test
it. So earlier during the week, we were talking about on Empress Show. He's talking about this topic of a man and woman. They were dating a very long time, and she's the type of lady that she decided to keep herself until marriage. Her entire life, she's only known one man. They've been together. They're in their, let's say, early 30s. And, you know, one day it just jumped up in her, and she said, you know, I've never known another man but you. And I'd like to try some other flavors of ice cream.
Oh, damn.
Now, you know, you were getting everybody's different opinions on it. I was like, hey, the fact that she went to him and had the conversation with him about it, that's speaking volumes. But from the perspective of a marriage counselor, how would someone in that position, how should they approach that?
Let's wait.
That's a very good. Yeah. They can go both ways. It can go both ways. So, and I've seen it go both ways. So, it's a risk.
The question though.
Yeah.
Try to break it down a little bit. Yeah. But I love that question.
Yeah. It's a real.
I'm excited.
It's real.
It's real. Yeah.
And we're all about.
The person is bold enough to actually state that this is what they wanted to do versus actually going out and doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Trouble is.
Welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time, we have with us in studio Maggie Bain. She is a relationship and intimacy specialist. Oh, we've been just jamming, with her thus far. We had discussions about, what a healthy relationship looks like. What does it mean to be disconnected with your spouse? We spoke about, some of the issues that people have or couples have when they come to her. She spoke about, being truthfully naked in your relationship, meaning that you be as transparent as possible, as vulnerable as you possibly can, being out there and communicating. And these were all insights that she shared with us. And of course, we're only in our second part of the show. And so we have some heavy questions to give Maggie to date. I mean, because she's a specialist, so she'll be asked at this time. But during our break, Beats actually asked a question, and I told him to hold it for until we get back on air. So I'm going to ask Beats to repeat what he said. Oh, Beats, by the way, Tommy said, I love Beats questions, right? I tell you, Beats love these questions. She said, be careful what you ask for. So Beats, go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon, Coach Trish. So earlier during the week, on Free Your Mind, we had a topic. We were talking about a couple. The couple, the woman in the relationship, she has done as the Bible said and has abstained from intercourse with anyone but her Boaz. And that seemed to have worked for her for a very long time. But now in the umpteenth year of their marriage, they're still young. And one day it just occurred to her that, hey, I've never been to any other island but Nassau. I want to try something else.
I want to try Long Island. Literally. Go ahead.
And so that was the topic that was brought on the show. People were invited to give their 5 cents and, their take on it. My take was, I felt that the mere fact that she was willing to have this discussion with her spouse, that speaks volumes. A lot of people would have just gone and do what they want to do. I mean,
let's hear Maggie.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting, and you do come across this fairly often. So it can go both ways. I mean, yes, they've obviously got a very safe, comfortable communication that she feels that she's able to. What you didn't fill us in with was what was his response.
That part we do not know.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying, is it can, there's a risk there. And I know there's many women that have admitted to having affairs and whatever, and it's gone badly. Men, and I'm sorry, don't like to generalize, but it is the truth. They take it harder and worse than women do. And so you run the risk of, that's it, being thrown out, end of it, and whatever. My question is what's been going on that makes her want to try the different flavors, as you say. So what's going on? The risk is again, it's just like I said about the affairs. You've got to realize, is it worth it? Right. Is it worth more, the trying, than what I have at home? Because what happens if you really like what you're trying? Which very often is, because that's what's triggered the want. Because something is been missing, And so there's a saying that we have that women have affairs because of what they're getting, because of what they're missing at home,
Right.
rather than just for the need and the numbers and all of that. So it's what's really been missing. So you're opening the door, which is just like for men too. Once you start down that, that's a hard thing to close. So that's deep. That's deep. So, you know, you've got to own, and you've got to own your decision. So how much you really thought through this? Is it just that you've heard other women talking about things and you think, oh, I've got a story to add to that because I've only been like, what is prompting that to make you feel you want to try?
Right.
Yeah.
The grass is not.
Yes.
Someone says that I don't think it's worth trying. I don't think it's. You see, the thing about it is when we look out at somebody else's grass, right? Using the term grass, it may be what you call a little you call artificial. The artificial grass. It may be green at the top, and then when you look a little bit further down, you realize it's turning brown because you know it starts from the root and way up. It may be dying.
Yeah,
there's so many different factors as to why you need to go out. And if you were to go out and you're risking once again your family, it's not worth it. No. And then just like any relationship, come on, let's be real. When you start a relationship, everyone puts on their best, right? They put their best foot forward. They open the doors and they do all these different things, and they try not to argue as much as they really would. Yeah. They don't show them their true selves at the begining of the relationship. So you always think, oh yeah, this is what I have, this is what I get, until you get deep down in it and you realize, I risked all of this for this garbage. This relationship isn't going anywhere.
But is it a relationship?
Well, maybe not.
Or is it just a chance encounter, just a little fling or whatever, a one-time thing? So you're going to risk what you have in your history with something like that.
Especially if the other person is married. Hello, Trish Hanna, you going there? Yes, I am going there. Because I can tell you, in most situations, they're not leaving their marriage for you. Oh.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go with my go beat.
Did we answer Did I answer your question?
Go beat.
You did not. And I don't want to distract anymore with this topic. I just want to put my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
My final thoughts on it was 2 things, 2 completely different trains of thought.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you could go out and you could try this, and 9 times out of 10, it would end up being something that is nice, but not truly fulfilling in the sense that when you talk about the actual physicality of doing the deed, men and women, women know that it takes some time to train a man to do the things that you need them to do, very specific things. Everyone's different, so that's one training. And then the other one is maybe there was this sort of desire inside her husband as well. Maybe this is a new avenue that they could experience and explore together. People just go away twice a year. Maybe their new thing could be, hey, we're going to go to a certain type of pineapple upside down village once a year. That's our thing. That's what we're doing. And hey, it's a beautiful adventure. That's their relationship.
You mean it's from having open relationships? That's
not necessarily. Maybe they just go on the what's it called? The
swingers clubs.
Maybe that could be.
No, I mean I think that this is now you're really getting deep into the work here.
I know,
now, what I should say is that I should have said that if you're opening this door and we don't know his response, he could say, well, if you're going to, then I'm going to. So are you willing to have the same done to you? This is really breaking things wide open, where you become an open relationship, which is a very interesting topic. And, and that's where swingers clubs come in as well. And these are membership clubs where people go and because there are different types of, I know. And it'll shock people who don't ever know what this is about. But you have to understand people have different sexual drives and sexual needs. And some people are much more adventurous and whatever. And so they go as a couple.
They go.
With consent with each other. They go as a couple, knowing that either they're going to meet another couple, or so they give permission to each other for whoever's attracted, whatever they can do and they can do. So
It's like carnival.
there you go.
Nothing like carnival.
Treats, treats.
Yeah.
It comes to mind, lovely young woman that the same thing, and she was the one that was the adventurous one.
Right.
And he agreed to come too. And then when the reality of it was she couldn't bear seeing him even, just talking and another woman flirting with him. And she shocked herself. You've got to, again, it's another opening a can of worms. You got to know, can I handle this? And sometimes it's a learning thing. I thought I was, but I can't. And I lost this person because you've got to, these are life things. And if you need to explore these things, that's part of your makeup of who you are, you got to be able to handle it.
You got to be able to communicate. And I can tell you opening up, like Maggie said, all kind of doors. All kind of doors. And
but consent
that's physically,
is the
spiritually,
key.
Emotionally,
exactly.
Mentally, every need. Yes, you open it up. And then even with consent, it's like, okay, suppose the husband likes it. Suppose the husband doesn't want to come back. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's really
very risky.
Yeah,
That's
a lot of people like that adrenaline rush. They like the risk. So we'll have people listening that is their style. So I acknowledge, and they come and see me too. So yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can get.
I know. Hey, we were only talking about disconnecting.
Right right, let's talk about disconnecting.
I just trying to get to the point of it. The conversation is important.
That's fine. I appreciate that. I do believe in the love languages. I think there are 5 of them.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think that when a spouse does not cater to the need of their significant other, that plays a factor in the disconnection?
Yes. I tell people over and over, the most important thing you can do is learn how your partner ticks.
Yeah.
What makes them be who they are. If you don't connect into them and you're only loving on them the way that you love, if you're a gift giver, but they just want your time and attention, then you're going to miss. Yeah. You're going to miss. You're going to be ships in the night. And so you will still end up with not feeling needed, wanted, and loved. Yeah. So really, it's like I said, get out of yourself and love on that person, the person that you love, in the way that they want to be loved.
Yeah. I agree. Love is selfless. And that goes with everything. That goes with even in intimacy, like sexual intimacy. It's like you're so concerned about wanting to please the other person. We have a section about intimacy, so I don't want to speak too much on it. That you find pleasure, or you should find pleasure in pleasing them versus you trying to ensure that you're pleased. We can talk about that though. So what would you say to someone who likes physical touches and their spouse is non-affectionate?
It's hard. That is really, really hard. So why don't they? And the thing is, are they able to do some touching? Maybe not fully as you want. This is where the compatibility comes on. And hopefully you will have, when you were dating, when you first got together before marriage, that you would have worked out a lot of this. If they don't like holding hands, if they don't like kissing, if they don't do now PDA, public displays of affection, that's a big thing too, because then they feel rejected and they see their friends, having all of that. So it is hard. And so again, it comes down to, if you love that person, at least try and find a way that is over and over, I use this term in my work. I call it workable solutions. Instead of saying no, no, and there's like, no, and there's not being resolved and there's still a problem, you've got to find a way to work it out. Yeah. And so, like I say, can we meet in the middle? Yeah. Would you agree to do this? If not this, Yeah. Because it's really important. And we know women in particular need a lot of what we call outer course, which is affection. We need that. That goes back to when we were little girls and daddy held our hand and picked us up. It is part of who we are. But again, I have a lot of men that need and want that as well, because it's the reassurance. It's the stroking of the ego. It makes us feel better. So it's very important. Listen. And that in itself can break relationships.
Yes, I believe that. I had a gentleman reach out to me, and this is the first time. I honestly have never heard you. I'm sure you said you've been in this in years. I haven't, but the times that I've been hearing things is normally us as women, we're the ones who are crying out for affection. I had a gentleman came to me and said, my wife is not affectionate. She doesn't touch me. She doesn't hold my hand. I said, what? And I was like, is this thing, does this even?
It's real.
Because you always hear the women complaining, but not the man. And so here it is that he's like, okay, I don't know what to do. This is what's going on, and she's just, that's just how it is. She doesn't want to compromise. It's all about compromising. As you've stated, let's meet in the middle. Okay, if you don't want to do the public display of affection, then you just hold my hand in the movies and in the dark.
Or behind closed doors where people don't. Yeah.
And so what about, you have like law enforcement officers, you have politicians, and you have the pastors who spend most of their time serving, right? And then you have wives who want the quality time, but because their roles are so tedious and demanding, you can't get that. How do you deal with couples in those situations?
That is work. That is my work. That is finding out the reasons why, and it has to be scheduled in. If you're that busy, you have to block off a part of your calendar, whether it's so many, work has to finish by 6 or 7, you have to then allocate your time. Sorry. And so, one of the main things that's affected relationships is this.
The devices.
Phone and devices, the internet. It consumes us. The eyes are drawn to that. It's time consuming. So I spend a lot of time like, how do we curtail that? How do we deal with that? But you're going to lose your relationship if you don't put the time and effort in. Period.
I believe that. I've seen it. And there are a lot of couples who are physically with their partners, but have emotionally withdrawn themselves. What do you do when your spouse has emotionally withdrawn from the relationship?
Gosh, now that is a hard one. Because some of these things are deep rooted. They can be from childhood trauma, either abuse or witnessing violence. And so when there is a removal like that, it's, as a sex therapist, we call it fear of intimacy, where I go through the motions, but I'm disconnected, like I'm not emotionally with you. Right. And so I have to reteach and get them to relearn. And again, it's opening a can. It's opening up memories. It's like we call doing shadow work. These are painful things, bringing up abuse. And so men and women, I'll say men and women.
Is because of abuse? When they're emotionally withdrawn, you think that's...
Well, these are learned skills. We think that we should know how to do all these things, that just because we can have intercourse, we think we should know how to make love. We should know how to talk and to satisfy and soothe and be loving. loving kindness, but they're not. They don't come naturally. If you haven't had a parent being brought up in a household with parents, and so this is why all the more important your show is so important, because we're teaching generations. They're witnessing, how do mommy and daddy talk to each other? How do they hug? Do they kiss each other? What happens if they've got a disagreement? And so if you haven't witnessed that, you're at a huge disadvantage. Huge.
I love that. I love the fact that you made that statement.
But
because
anything can be taught and anything can be learned. And I have some people that have really come through and changed their lives. We call it breaking generational curses. Be the person, be the one to make that change.
To make the change. It's funny that you said that. I haven't witnessed any couples from the time that I've been growing up. I haven't witnessed a marriage like that. I think there was only one situation, and that ended in a divorce. My mom wasn't married. My aunts weren't married. So there was no one so I had to feel my way through this. And we've been married for 15 years on my own. At the beginning, I was a roughneck of a wife. Okay. But I had to eventually ask God to help me to navigate how to be the wife and how to respect my husband, how to honor him, trying to find out ways and methods to deal with issues, because there are going to be issues. You're not going to find a perfect marriage. And ways, because there have been times that we have disconnected. I think in every marriage at some point there has been some disconnection, but then
children can do that.
Job, the stress and strain from the job can do that. There's so many different factors, and this is the reason why. And then, oh man, it's just I'm so overwhelmed now, because that's basically what I'm hearing, or what I've been hearing. Hey, he comes home and he doesn't say anything to me. He just does, goes in his corner, goes in his men to do, and just, or I'll hear, we don't know. I don't know the last time we, were intimate, physically intimate with each other, sexually intimate with each other. What's going on there? So speaking of sexual intimacy, let's go there anyway. What are some of the reasons that couples disconnect even in the bedroom? Yeah. Because, we have emotional, we have all these other things.
Well, being too tired, the demands of life. And so there's just that exhaustion. Now, if one person's really tired and exhausted, but the other person's fresh and ready, and then, but they have a little nap, and, they're ready later on, but then this person's asleep. So the line that I will generalize with this, men are often like saying, well, I've got higher sex drive than they have. And so when I ask them, well, when does she want it, or what happens? Well, she's already done homework. She's cooked dinner. She's washed up after the working. And so she's exhausted at 10 o'clock. So she needs to go to sleep. She's not interested. But then she might say to me, oh, but I wake up like 2 o'clock and then I am, because I've had a little rest. And he says, no, I'm asleep. And I'm like, well, actually, you've not got a really high sex drive. I said, your timing is just off. And he's shocked, because it's easier to point the finger at the other person than to find a workable solution. So I'm like, when it's like that, either have the power nap first, meet up for a midnight buffet, or, and then I remind couples, sex doesn't have to be at night. And this is particularly important when you've got young children who are sleeping between you in the bed. You've got a family bed. And so if you're not careful with that, then a long time goes by and you realize you haven't reached over, you haven't, touched each other. Or I remind them, lift the child to another location, be intimate, and then you can always bring them back.
Oh, you could go to another location.
Yeah. So there's ways around it, but people get like me. Well, what about me? What about me? So tiredness and schedule being off, timing, is a big thing. The other thing, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned, is that what one person wants, the other person doesn't like.
Right.
And of course, the big topic always is, the hot topic is oral sex.
Right.
And so that, what do we do with that? So there's different ways. And again, I want.
Now, hold on. Stop. Pull up.
Well, you know, I don't want to give away all my secrets.
But yeah, but the show is for. The show is for you to be as transparent as possible with us so that we can learn. And of course, additional information at the end you will share where you come in, where you come from. But we want, this is the show, and I tell my guests this all the time. I need you to be real. Yeah. Because they're not hearing it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. So real education.
Yes, please.
So, you know, the thing is, why don't you like it?
Yeah.
And a lot is upbringing. Yeah. You know, I'm a woman of faith too, but the churches do tell us not to do different things. And we can get onto masturbation later on. That's a different, and so there is that scorn. There is that distastefulness. He asked me to do this. So, you know, there's many things that you can do to help. And if you really want to say no, like what's he saying in response to that? If it will be, well, I'll go and get that somewhere else. Are you willing to, or are you willing to try? Hygiene is a big thing. So that's like, you know, so if it is, you both shower together and then you come out fresh and clean. There are condoms that you can put on that are flavorful condoms. Right. That again, you can be playful over rather than, are you enjoying this? Beats, are you enjoying this talk, this bit?
I was until you said condoms.
He ain't into no garbage bag.
No, but what I'm saying is that, well, you know, it's the cling wrap and and all of that. So there are ways that you can, you know, and be silly and fun with it. Sure. Your eyes are popping out your head as you're listening to me saying all that.
Fun. You want to make it fun and enjoyable. And
because really, you don't want them. Each person, if it is a big area of concern for them, like this is really important to them, but again, hopefully you've talked about all these things before you got married. If it was really a big issue before, then, you know, you really should have said, so the red flags can work on both sides. Right. You know, he should have had a red flag if she'd say, there's no way I'm ever going to do that. Then why do you continue then on with the relationship? Right. So, these are really, it's finding a way that will work for you.
Right. Someone said communication and understanding are essential. Yes. And someone said schedule sex. Yes. Scheduling sex is important. If you can't do it, one person and be no, you have to listen.
If you've got children and everything,
sometimes you are tired. Sometimes you didn't finish. I have 3 different sets of homework projects and stuff too. We have 3 kids. All right. When you ready, then boom. Yes, we were ready, taking a nice warm bath or whatever together. And then by the time, because the bath was so nice and warm, and they're
so relaxed.
You're too relaxed to do anything. I mean, like, let me catch a 5 first. Let me sleep for a couple of minutes and then I'll come find you.
Well, there's the power nap. That's why I was saying.
Exactly.
Just say, wake me up in 1 hour. You know, it's that kind of thing. An agreement has to come about. You know, that whole thing about scheduling. And that's why the word is what people hate. They just really can't stand it. But I just say, you know, whether it's playtime, you know, there are many reasons why that does work for people. Because if you're not paying attention, the busyness, like you said, has it been 2 weeks? Has it been a month? And so time can pass. And so by making sure, and people always ask, well, how much? Now we're talking about couples that live together. I'm not talking about singles or people. This is, you know, you've got home, you've got housework. It's busy. Yes. But people always ask me, well, how often should we be having sex? And as sex therapists, we never like to say,
No.
because everybody's got different sex drives. And
Literally.
if a couple is happy, then they're happy. There isn't a problem. But people still look to me for some guidance, for some
Measurement.
measurement. And so I found, because once we become unglued, because the sexual intimacy and the touch is so important. That is the glue. That is the glue that keeps you together. Otherwise, you're like roommates. So then if they become disconnected and the glue, so they want to know. And so I usually say at least once a week.
At least once a week.
So say his job takes him to the family islands and she works late on a Thursday and Friday. What do they have? So their planned playtime might be a Saturday night or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they both know that not to put anything in their calendar during that time. This is the priority.
Mm-hmm.
And it works for them.
I love that. Set your time. Set your time. We're going to take a break, but Maggie, let me just let you know what this question says, and then when we get back, we allow you to answer the question, please.
Sure.
And it says, my partner doesn't like to shower together, but I absolutely love it. What can I do, or how neat to handle it? I like that. That's loaded. All right, so let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll ask Maggie to answer that question.
Great.
You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. And you are too. We compliment each other.
Yes, absolutely.
We're covering a lot of topics.
Yes,
so
I
that's
love it. And if there's a topic that I haven't really stated, you can go ahead and
all right. I'm just looking. I just very loosely.
So hung up on the
Condom
double
thing.
S word, schedule and sex. I
Schedule,
feel like that's
sex.
two words that should never be
What?
in the
You
same
just
Well,
said it should just be
even
sporadic, just
though-
out there.
Hear me out. Even though in
You
practice
don't have to.
it works out that it
Have you
is
got
kind
children?
of a schedule.
Have
I
you
have
got
two.
children?
Very
So we have our
unusual.
own
But they're not like
routine.
bouncing on your
Right.
bed.
Oh,
And
they in our bed.
that's what I'm saying. Well, I should say, I do a advice column twice a month for the trip.
No thanks.
What?
Don't. This is
Don't
the
say it.
Guardian.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Good job you
Thank
said
you.
that.
It's
Good
okay.
job you said that.
Mhm.
Because one of the things I did was how to keep the intimacy
Now
in
we-
your
we-
with
we'll
after
find-
children.
Yeah.
After children. So the main thing is the big thing is the family bed.
Right.
And it's just making it a priority. Just making your connection and your bonds and your glue, your intimacy a priority. That's all it is.
That's
And
what I
people
want.
lose sight of that because they get distracted by everything else.
Something else.
Your job is not more important than your relationship.
Nothing is important.
Even calling
You
it
know?
the family bed is wild. It used to be our bed.
But-
It's not the family bed.
Well, if you've got a child sleeping between you, it does
Now
become
it's
a
the
family
family
bed.
bed.
Yes, right. That's why I say you just.
And so there's
You
different
come out,
there's
and
different
then you get in
parenting
bed.
styles.
Yes.
Now, some parents would never put their child in the bed,
Mhm.
So there's just different parenting styles. So in fact, I tell couples that are entering that stage, talk about all these things beforehand. Because it can get quite, and try and find a place of agreement,
Absolutely.
Dr. Bain, how do you feel?
I'm not doctor, but thank
Sorry.
you. No,
Sorry.
no, that's
Maggie's
all right.
fine.
Yeah.
Maggie's okay?
Yes, of course.
There was a show recently
That
on
sounds good,
Netflix that
Dr.
Every FMC, they all call me
Mhm.
that too.
Go ahead.
when it first came on, I thought that the premise of the show was really wild. It was really out there.
Right.
But now, being a married man with two kids, two young boys, I realized that this is a real thing.
Which show are you talking about?
Sex rooms.
Oh, right.
What is
How, as a intimacy coach,
Mm.
what is your take on sex rooms? Do you think that they really, really help relationships?
Now you tell me what that means to you. I don't know the show.
I don't
There's
know the
different. There's different. My mind runs on all kinds of.
Right.
So I want to be that we're on
Yeah,
the
just-
same
Yeah.
page.
Please.
Right.
What are sex rooms?
So
Are we back on?
we back on.
Okay, just give me a second then.
all right.
Just before you before Beats was asking a question during our break. For those who are listening via radio and cable, but just before we answer your question, Beats, we want to go ahead with the question that was posed here that asked, "Hey, my partner doesn't like to shower together, but I absolutely love it. What can I do, or how neat to handle it?" And we want to ask Maggie to do that.
You know, what comes to mind first is not everybody's baths and showers accommodate two people. So a lot of times, not knowing his reasons why not, a lot of times is there's just not space. It's like, and it's not that they're what they call them, the rainforest down, it might be there. So, well, you get all the hot water and I don't get, it's just not comfortable. It's not practical. And so that's why a lot of people do say no, you know, they don't even, because it just doesn't make sense to them. So the whole thing is, if it's not been practical for them in the past, then they don't see the pleasure in it. I like to tell people, you know, take the advantage when you go to a hotel, when you go on vacation or whatever. Check online and see what their bathrooms look like, and use that as okay, well, if we can do a little trade here, I've held off with this, but I've chosen this room specifically. Are you going to? And so then you can have, you know, it's got to be a win-win at some point. It's got to feel fair. Otherwise, again, we get that feeling like what I need, I'm not getting.
I love it. So I really like to find out. She doesn't have to say it here, but I would really want to know if she discussed this with her mate, and if she did, you know, what was his reason for not taking? Because it could be so many different factors. Because I remember before we moved in our home, we were in one of our apartments, and our tub shower thing was very tiny.
See,
we used to squeeze our way in. You know what I mean? So it was like we made it work for each other. So the problem is, the situation is, okay, what would be your reason? Because like you said, it was uncomfortable for him or whatever.
Maybe he's a big guy and he can't, you know,
there's many factors.
There are many. And I wouldn't like to judge. The thing is, it's always find a workable solution. Find something. Don't deny yourself, but at the same time, listen to what his arguments are.
Or maybe you could ask him to give you a bath. You know,
and you can wrap. Now that's in my book. That's in my ebook on my website. So yeah, it's very much facing each other in the tub. You can have your legs wrapped around. People can fit in quite small tubs, and the ritual of bathing each other off limb by limb by limb. So we know as sex therapists that water is really powerful for washing off negative energy. So, and very much when you talk about timing of, you know, when she's tired and he's not, he's ready and whatever, if you both bathe together, then there is that sense of washing off the negative energy. And so you're able to face each other, share your day, vent, whatever. And so then you come out refreshed, dry each other off, and go from there.
And play. But don't be like Trish back in the days, who, because it was just so relaxing that she was like, okay,
go
give
to
me
sleep.
5 minutes. Don't be like Trish. All right. So even in our time together, Maggie, you've given us so many good nuggets to capture and to use.
Thank you.
And there is another question that I have for you that was sent. Let me see if I can read it real quick. As I'm doing that, you can go ahead and still speak.
No, I mean, I was just thinking, you know, it's it is my topic. It is my specialty, and I love talking and helping people because I want everybody to get to a place of improve to contentment. At least if you're not going to be happy, then at least it feels better than where you are now. I never want anybody to settle in an unhappy place because everything can be improved on. And so sometimes it's just the smallest degree will improve things dramatically. Some people think, oh, they're never going to change. Things never going to improve. Oh, she'll never try this or whatever. don't try and mind read. It is those self-limiting beliefs that are stopping you from reaching happiness.
It starts with the mindset, right?
Everything.
You have to have a positive mindset in order for you to go ahead.
But we've got to find out why. Why is that? So
Right.
a lot of disappointments, resentment. And so a lot of my work is first clearing that out the way before I can teach you and you can get onto the really good stuff.
Here's the question. How did I lose it again? Oh, see there. What do you think about balancing boundaries in relationships? How do you balance boundaries in relationships?
Well, boundaries are how far I'm going to let you come in. It's a protection for yourself. And again, it's to do with consent. You know, no, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that because I don't allow anybody to talk to me like that. That is a boundary. Like, that's okay, but this isn't okay.
Right.
And we should all have boundaries. That is where healthy relationships are about, whether it's with our friends, coworkers, family, whatever. You know, we can't just be an open book and people just walk all over us. And so it's the same in your relationships or your marriage. Again, I would say these things, hopefully you've ironed out a lot of this when you're dating, but also know that we change and grow. What you want in your 20s is not the same in your 30s or your 40s. And just know, and this is where flexibility within a relationship, and again, we go back to the communication. If you can't tell me why you're bored with this, why that isn't enough anymore for you, and what you're needing, and why, you know, it's like, and so this is where the key is. It's if you can't talk about these things, how are you going to improve things when it gets the really difficult, tough stuff or the intimate stuff? Yeah.
That's important. That is important. All right. So what if with disconnection, you find persons who are people who, let's go back to infidelity, persons who have had an affair and and the wife or the husband or the spouse was aware of it, but they're still continuing with the marriage. All right. So the disconnection is really, to me, the root of it is just unforgiveness. But of course, they would say, I have forgiven them, you know. But what are your views on that?
You know, I always tell people, be careful with forgiving so quickly because all you're doing really is sweeping under the carpet. You're not allowing yourself to express your pain, your anger. All of that needs to come out. I thought you were going to ask me about, is it possible to stay in a marriage after infidelity, which is often what people say, like, is it possible? Is it possible to really forgive? And one of the key things that I've discovered during this work is the level of remorse that the person who has caused the pain, the amount of remorse they have is really instrumental to if this is going to survive.
Right.
Because the person who is hurting needs to know that you hurt as much as I do.
Right.
Because if it's just a matter of, well, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Sorry, that's like, sorry that I've lost the keys. Sorry, I forgot to bring back the milk. Sorry isn't enough. You need to feel wretched because I need to know that your pain is equal, if not more, than mine. And so that's
that you caught me.
Okay. Well, you know,
in most cases, that's what
yeah. So it's like, again, it's the whole thing. How much is our relationship worth to you? If I sense that you're casually saying that, then I'm like, okay, then I know my worth. This is how you see me in this relationship. And again, it goes back to that not being seen, being taken as furniture, being walked around, being invisible. So we get back to those three things that I said right at the beginning.
You reminded me of something. I had girls' night out yesterday, and one of the wives said to me, she said, "Oh, we don't really talk to each other in the house like that. I mean, we respect each other, whatever, but."
Yeah, but you know, that's, and if that, and I always tell people, you know,
the words she said, sorry to cut you off, she said, he was allergic to me. Those were her terms.
Yeah.
He must be allergic
Yeah.
to me. In other words, he's keeping his distance
Yeah,
from
yeah.
her.
They become roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, if she's not objecting and he's not objecting, there really isn't a problem. There's a lot of people that live lives that you and I may think are like, why? Why are they together?
Yeah.
A lot of people stay in relationships, in marriages, for financial reasons and for love. And often it's the love that includes the children.
Yeah.
So, and again, the judgment, there's no judgment there from me, because who am I to say that that's not? If that's right for you, then that's right for you. Yeah.
What do you mean if that's right? If what's
Meaning
right?
a lot of people don't have the needs of wanting to be needed, wanted, and desired.
Right.
They are just happy that they're married, that they've got a roof over their head, they've got children, they've got a family. And so they're okay with that. And so we have to be okay by not passing a judgment that everybody has to be. Yeah. It's a big, you know, yeah.
Child,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
Maggie,
but
I don't know. I know with women, we have needs.
Yes.
And
but not all. That's what I'm saying,
No,
is that
yeah.
the ones that have come and spoken to you have, but there's a lot of people that sit back.
They're just okay with whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
something, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so in our final time together, if you want to have share any final remarks for couples listening right now, those who feel as if they have disconnected, what advice can you give them?
Come and see me as soon as possible, because the longer you wait, I call it's like a cavity and a root canal. If you don't do something about your cavity, it will end up as a root canal, guaranteed. And so come early, learn the skills. It's much easier and better for you. It's never too late. Never think it's never too late to come. So I'm at Family Medicine Center on Blake Road.
Mm-hmm.
And can I give the phone number?
Yes, of course.
So I have to write it down because I still don't remember it. So it's 702-9310. And you can ask for the extension 130, which is straight on. There's a psychology floor. The third floor is very discreet. And so that's where you find me. I'm there on a Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, half day. So
social media links.
Oh, yeah. So my website, everything is branded as Bare Naked Coach. So that's BARE. barenakedcoach.com is my website. You can send a message through there or on Instagram or Facebook. So you can always just send me messages, or like I say, just call FMC. I do actually have, for people are like, well, I don't know if I could sit down, for an individual session is 1 hour. A couple is an hour and a half. And some people are like, I don't know, I've never done this before. I do actually have 10-minute sessions. And all of those sessions, short or long, I can do a Zoom. So if you want to be very private, we can do all on Zoom. Otherwise, 10 minutes and tell me your issue and your problem. And I can assure you, I will identify which area that we need to concentrate on. And then you can see whether you feel comfortable with me. Because why we open up and have people opening up is because our ability to get people's trust quickly and to make you feel comfortable. So that's what I say.
Well, how do you deal with, remember I told you one matter, my relative said that there's nothing that we can tell him that he doesn't already know. And there's someone I know that said they are private. They don't want people to know their business. So how do you deal with couples like that, or a spouse that believe that, one, they know it all, no one can tell them anything, or two, they're private and they don't want anyone to know their business? How do you deal with that? Yeah,
I mean, if that's fine. I'm not going to argue the case. If you think that you know everything, then that's great. That's great. I mean, we're all living and learning as we go. And if so it's an attitude. So I'm like, I'm not going to argue the case. If that's what he feels, then that's what he feels. If they're looking for privacy, then again, you can connect with me on my website or on social media, and I can set up a Zoom call. And we can do it that way, where I can do it discreetly without involving the two ladies that are there, FMC. So there's always ways. I totally understand all of that. There are ways around that if you're interested in that. But as for, no, I don't force that. People have to experience this type of work and how it will improve them. I would challenge him to by saying, I think I probably got a few tricks up my sleeve that he may not know about.
Okay.
But you know, I'm not going to force the issue. People have to come out of choice, and like I say, the desire to improve their lives and their happiness for the rest of their lives.
Yes, I agree with you. So thank you so much. You told me not to call you Coach Maggie.
Maggie.
Yes. So just before we allow you to end, I want to do our talk to the audience moment. And the talk to the audience moment is brought to you by Your Lane Life Coaching. This particular session is done for it. These are just nuggets. Every show I jot down nuggets in preparation for the specific topic. And of course, you can either take it or leave it. And in most cases, persons have been blessed by it. And if you notice that even in my pointers, there may be some things that is shared or will be shared that our specialists or the guests that I have on the show would have already stated. But of course, the points were done prior to the show, as I'm always saying. Yes, ma'am, I'm going to talk right now, Nadia. All right. So the first point that I want to say is for those, especially who are people of faith, to put God first in your marriage. Pray together and do devotions together. Devotionals are very important. Be intentional about it too. We hear it all the time that, put God first. People always saying put God first, but we only run to God when we're in problems and when we're in trouble. We run to God when things are just out of control. Where were you? What was going on in your relationship while things were going well, while things were going smooth? Start now. Don't wait until then. For those who seem to have healthy relationships right now, pray daily while things are going well. Establish a routine. Dedicate a day to read the Word of God together. And I know some people say, well, what if my spouse doesn't want to? What if he? And, as Maggie said, you don't force them. Don't get mad if they don't want to. Then you just spend time with God by yourself. You do some alone time. Allow God to work through you and work with you. Use the Word of God as a mirror for you so that you'll be able to deal with some of the obstacles or the resistance that your spouse may be having. Use the principles to win him over. The basic principles as husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And the basic principles for women is that we submit to our husbands. And of course, the word submit doesn't mean yes, sir, like a slave, but you want to be respectful. You want to respect, you want to honor your husbands. And these simple instructions aren't, when they're not followed through, or if you don't abide by them, you realize that you have more friction than ever, because you're not really abiding by what is being said. And that's, once again, for those who are men and women of faith. All right. And the second point is to ask God for wisdom during your season of disconnection or dryness, because you're not going to know everything all the time. There may be some times that or some information that you may read out of a book or watch on YouTube or something that may not necessarily apply to your relationship. And so the best person to actually give you any form of advice is God himself, because he's the one who created your husband and he's the one who created you. All right. And even so, he will direct you to persons like Maggie or persons like myself or your pastor or some mentor and say, okay, well, this is where you're going to need your information from. So if you ask, and he will direct you to people, because sometimes we find ourselves going to professionals that may not be a fit. And it's okay. Because there are some people who are not my fit. There are some people I'm not their fit. Some people for Maggie. Some people are not for Maggie.
Right.
So if you just ask, he will direct you. If you ask him, feel your way around until you find that right connection. But for goodness sake, ask for wisdom. How should I respond while I'm going through this disconnection? With women, as a woman, we tend to allow offense to creep in when we feel as if we're not getting our needs met, or we feel as if um, he's cheating, or he must be doing something is distracting him, or and it doesn't necessarily have to be infidelity. It could just simply be the job, the stressful job. It could be the bills, the fact that he has changed life, because as men grow older, their responsibilities are greater. Sometimes when they are promoted, their responsibilities are greater. As an entrepreneur, you have husbands who own businesses and stuff. They are being pulled and being called upon for so many different reasons. So be patient. Be patient. Husbands who are listening, be patient with your wives. I spoke to a wife that's about a week or so ago. She's in the government field, and she was telling me, like, when it's promotion season, it doesn't. She hardly see her husband because she want to make sure, and she was real with me. She want to make sure that she's being seen, because some reason she has been overlooked. And there are times that these things happen when it's so intense at the job that you feel as if it's really you and it's not you. It could be a spouse just going through something, it's emotional issues. So be patient. There are so many different factors. It doesn't necessarily have to be you. You don't want to make matters worse. Be a wise woman and build your house. Do not be a foolish woman and tear your house down. Sometimes as women, we tend to say some awful, hurtful words with our mouths because that's our defense mechanism. It's the hurt, the disappointment, and the frustration that comes out because we don't understand the season that we're in. Ask yourself, how have I contributed to this disconnection? Because it takes two. Let's be real. Could it be that you didn't fight fair? Think about some of the things that you said in the past. And sometimes we get ourselves in problems because of our mouths. I am one very guilty. I was very mouthy. I'm not anymore, but I was very mouthy as a wife. And there were some hurtful things that I said just to be spiteful. And believe it or not, with some men, I can say, and some people, they tend to hold those things in. So even when, and as I was explaining to Maggie, when they say, okay, yeah, I've forgiven, they have still internalized some things because of the words that you say. Words are powerful. Words can sting. So how have you contributed to this disconnection? Let's be real. Yeah? My other point is communication is key. And we spoke about this earlier. Express how you feel the most humble way you know how. If he or she is not giving you the attention, all right, you don't row about it. You don't have to have an attitude about it. You don't have to play games with it. All right, don't avoid them and stonewall. That's another thing. We tend to stonewall and not talk to the other person because we feel as if they're not meeting their needs. Well, if he ain't meeting my needs, or if she ain't meeting my needs, then I don't have anything else to say. And then you just shut down. Stop suppressing your feelings and express your feelings. No longer are we little kids running around. I ain't playing with you, no, I ain't playing with you either. We're all grown adults here where we're able to share how we should be able to share how we feel. You could start with saying, you hurt me when, or I feel this way when you, words like that. And like I said, when you do it, don't do it out of accusation. Don't point fingers. You say how you feel. And then maybe perhaps you can ask a question to find out what that other person's view is on the matter. Not to accuse them, but just to find out, in the most humble way that you possibly can. Apologize and forgive often. Pride and unforgiveness are not only tools for disconnection, but it also wreaks havoc on your home. When you hold on to what your spouse did or said in the past for so long, offense comes, resentment comes, bitterness comes. It's like a cancer that spreads all over. Before you know it, you become roommates instead of lovers. You walking in and out the house, not communicating with each other, and it's like, fine, well, he ain't talking to me, so I ain't talking to me. And like the lady shared yesterday in our girls night, she said he must be allergic to me. No, it's not even funny. I'm laughing because of the way that she said it. But it comes to a point where you're both avoiding each other because, and if you look down, if you look at the root of the situation, somebody did not forgive. Somebody is holding in some grudge. Something happened. In most situations, not all, but in most situations, something happened that was not resolved. Why wasn't it resolved? Because you didn't communicate. Or if you communicated, it's just for whatever reason that other person didn't want to work on the situation. You got to work. Marriage takes work. And sometimes the other person, when you stonewalling, or you're not communicating with them, you're not talking. You're like when somebody ain't talking to you, they'll not talk to you for years, for days. The other person's oblivious to what's going on with you, and the only thing they see is that you just have an attitude. Well, geez, what I do to her? Little did they know that you've been just holding on to all these different things, these hurts and pains. And then in some cases, they retaliate because of how you're acting, just because you didn't want to let it go. When you apologize, please don't try to justify your actions, and don't try to say it as if someone is forcing you to apologize. Be genuine. They're gonna know. They're gonna know. We know the difference between someone who truly is genuine and authentic about their apology and who's remorseful than someone who's just apologizing just because. My other point is when your spouse is not giving you the attention that you desire and you have expressed your concerns, you don't sulk at home and get depressed about it. As women, we tend to close in. We tend to just sulk, and we sometimes feel depressed and we feel as if the world is ending in some cases. Sometimes it requires us to just get up, take a shower, dress up. If you got to go to the movies by yourself, go to the movies. Got to go to dinner by yourself, go out for dinner, go do a girls' night out, do something. Don't just stay at home and be depressed. Now, nothing wrong staying at home. Just stay at home and be depressed. Come out of the house and do something. Do something positive. Get more involved with the community. Do something if you feel as if you're not getting the attention at home and you've done everything, including getting a mediator, getting a therapist. Seek help if you haven't done so. Certain battles you cannot fight on your own. Find a mentor, find a pastor, find a coach, find a therapist. Whatever it is you do, do it quickly. Don't wait until the last minute. We said this already. Don't wait until it's at the point of no return, or may feel like the point of no return, to go and look for someone. Because at that point, the cancer has already spread. All right, so please go ahead. You have Maggie here. You have your Lane Life Coaching. You have your pastors. You have other coaches in our country. You have international. You have so many different people. The point of this is that you seek help, because we want to ensure that marriages stay connected. Marriages the issues that you have are resolved, that marriages are restored, that we understand that when we make decisions, it's not just about us, but it's about our children. Maggie said something very profound. She said, we're breaking generational curses. So my final question to you is, what does it mean to you to stand side by side with your partner through thick and thin, till death do you part? What does that mean to you? What does that look like for you? What are some things that you need to put in place to ensure that you remain faithful to the vows you made now? You made this vow to your husband in the presence of God and a few witnesses. You said that you were going to stay and remain with that person through thick and thin. If you're in the thickness of it all, what do? Do you just let go? Do you just release it and you just run? Or do you work on it? Marriage is work. You're not going to get happy days 365 days out of the year. It's not going to be. You're going to have hills and valleys. They're going to get on your nerves. They're going to sometimes just stonewall you. Sometimes they don't want to talk. Sometimes they don't want to communicate. Sometimes they don't want to give you try to fulfill your needs. What do you do in those situations? What about you? How are you contributing to your marriage success, the success of your marriage? To stop pointing the fingers or the finger, and let's point it at ourselves. What are we doing? And I'm going to leave off with this particular scripture. This is one of my favorite scriptures. It's found in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. And it says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lay down together, they will keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Amen. I'll get that right. Okay. If you need help with the ways to connect with your spouse, you can go onto my website, www.yourlanelifecoaching.com. There's also Bare Naked website as well, which is www.barenakedcoach.com. Please, all right, we're here to help. We're here. We believe in successful marriages. We you could hear the passion in Maggie's voice. That's why I'm so connected to her. You could hear that there's passion there. This is not just a job. This is passion. I could hear it all.
It's a calling. It's a calling. Yeah, I'm called to do this. It's yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Maggie.
thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. I've totally enjoyed it.
And I'm grateful.
And thank you to Beats too.
Beats, as always. Beats never fail me. And so today's show was brought to you by Airborne Freight and Cargo Services, John Shoe Store and Accessories, Your Lane Life Coaching, Bahama Odds and Ends Party Supplies, and Johnson & Johnson, distributed by Lowe's Wholesale. Guess what, y'all? We will have with us next week in studio urologist Dr. Gregory Pinto. Y'all, oh my gosh, this dude, I'm saying to it. I could say that because we cool. All right, this gentleman is the bomb. All right, we want to know about our men, right? As women, yes. As women, we want to know about our men. We want to get to know about their health, their diet, their exercise, how to deal with them as far as intimacy is concerned, about their change of life, and so much more. And this helps a lot with, because the more knowledge we get and we apply, the better our relationships are.
Absolutely.
Right? And this can also help with disconnection, right? For those who may be suffering, you would be able to have a better understanding of how your man's body is and the way that they, their mental state, etc., and how to deal with it. You know, women, as we listen to Dr. Pinto next week, God's willing. So be able to share that. We actually had a part 1 last year with urologist Dr. Joseph Evans, and you can find that on our the YouTube. You don't want to miss that. For those, the topic is called dealing with our men's health, I think, and I didn't even write it down. But yeah, I don't even know the topic right now. But it's gonna be a part 2. It's gonna be a part 2, so you don't want to miss that. All right. So thank you for those who've been tuning in. Thank you so much. Amen. Thank you so much. We have some really good attributes and accolades.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
On the Facebook account. So those who are on Facebook, thank you so much for keeping it lit as always. Thank you for my listeners, our listeners on the radio on channel 976 on cable. Thank you to my boy Beats, who've been holding it down. As always, he's been doing an awesome job. And if for more information on all the past shows, the previous shows, you can go on to Coach Trish Hanna on YouTube, where you see a list of all the various shows from the very first one down to the last one where we have Dr. Thomas. And of course, you want to be up and in and centered for next week's show with Dr. Pinto. All right. So thank you once again. And I pray that you all were empowered, educated, and encouraged today. Until next time, happy Sunday. What you say?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Have a great day, everyone.
Very good. Very good.
Ending the live.
We're ending the live. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.